Hello again, my fellow security professionals. Today we're going to be talking about policy scheduling within the Palo Alto Network's next generation firewall. As you can see, I've got my next gen firewall configuration up, and we're currently looking at our policies. Let's give you a little bit of background about what policy scheduling is and how it's used within the next generation firewall, and then we'll go ahead and do a configuration and I'll show you what we're talking about. To give you a little bit of background, the policy scheduling is not typically done for a security use case. When we're talking about security, usually security is an always on or always off proposition. So if we look at our policies here, you can see that I've got a number of security policies. The first one is denied applications. I'm always going to want to deny those applications. There isn't a time where I'm going to turn that off. Same thing on my allowed applications. Those apps that are business critical applications or are used by all of my employees, I'm going to want those on all the time. If we look at policy number 3 here, our allow Netflix policy, that one we can probably do a policy schedule on. And as I said, this is going to be a business use case, not a security use case. From a security standpoint, there isn't a high likelihood that my employees are going to get any kind of threat or malware from Netflix, but I may want to control their access nonetheless. In this case, the business has asked us to put a limitation and only allow our users to go outside of normal business hours to Netflix. So from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., the business does not want our employees to go to Netflix. But after 5 p.m. and before 8 a.m., the business is perfectly fine with our users going to Netflix and watching whatever they want to watch. So how do we create a policy around this? Well, let me show you what we've got here. I've also got a Windows 7 machine in the background here that I'm using for testing, and this is going to replicate our employee machine, our employee workstation. So from here, I just want to demonstrate that we can go to Netflix today. I'm going to open up Chrome and we're going to go into Netflix. And as you can see, I'm able to go into Netflix. I'm able to look at my movies that are available and would even be able to watch one if I wanted to. So let's go back to the firewall. And what we're going to do is adjust this allow Netflix policy and set a policy schedule. Now there's 2 ways to set a policy schedule. The first one is to go into the Objects tab and down here in Schedules and create a new schedule. The other way, which can be a little more convenient, is to do it directly from the policy itself. So if I go into my allow Netflix policy, I can go all the way over here to the Actions tab. You'll see that I'm allowing Netflix, but on the right here, I can schedule my policy. If I click on the drop down, we haven't created a policy schedule yet, but we have the option to do that here. So let's click on this new schedule, and I'm going to create a new schedule here. I'm going to give it a name. It's not going to be very creative. We'll just call it the Netflix schedule. And we have the option to do a schedule based either on daily, weekly, or non-recurring, which is basically a one-time schedule. In this case, what we're going to do is a daily schedule. And as I said, the business wants us to allow users to go to Netflix after 5 p.m., but before 8 a.m. So what we're going to do is create a schedule based on that. The time format within my scheduler is a 24-hour time format. So we'll start with 5 p.m. or 1700 hours. And we're going to go to 8 a.m. the next morning. But you're going to see there's a bit of a problem here. If I go and click on OK, I'm going to get an operation failed message. Now, why did I get that? I got that because of the logic within the next generation firewall and the fact that this is supposed to be a daily schedule. As far as the firewall is concerned, daily means from midnight or 0 hours all the way up to 11:59, that 23:59 timestamp. that's a day. And if I go past midnight or past 0, that's a next day. And so it doesn't match up with the logic. So what I have to do here, I can make this work, but I just need to create a second set of time, a second start time and a second end time. So what I'm going to do is, instead of ending at 8 a.m., instead I'm going to end at 11:59. Now 11:59 isn't available in the drop down. We go in 15-minute increments in the drop downs, but I can type in 11:59. And then what I'm going to do is create a second time schedule from midnight all the way up to, we'll get rid of that. Let's try this again. We'll go to 11:59, if I can do this correctly. Then we'll go from, and this is from 1700. Man, I'm all over the place on this one. We'll go from 1700 to 11:59, and then from midnight to 8 a.m. And we'll specify that. So I've got my schedule and I've got my 2 sets of time from 1700 to 11:59, and from midnight, and that won't be 11:59, sorry, that will be 23:59. Remember, we are on 24-hour time. And then from midnight to 8 a.m. So we'll click on OK. And notice it took it that time. And so now I've got my Netflix schedule is applied to my security policy, this allow Netflix security policy. We'll click on OK. And then remember, none of my changes are permanent until I hit the commit button. At that point, they're applied to the firewall. Right now, it's just a candidate configuration and has not taken effect. So let's go and click on commit, and we'll commit that change to our firewall.